Is there unlimited space in the universe? Is there an edge to it? If that's the case, what would you see if you visited? As of right now, we understand that the cosmos began 14 billion years ago and has been growing ever since. Nevertheless, anything in growth ought to have an advantage as well, right? It sort of does, actually. Data cannot move faster than the speed of light. This implies that the universe we observe is limited to regions whose light has reached us over the previous 14 billion years. The observable cosmos appears to us as a sphere centered on ourselves when we gaze outward. However, things get a little more complicated because of the universe's expansion, which has led us to realize that the furthest objects whose light we can now see are actually 45 billion light-years away. Accordingly, the observable universe is a 45 billion light-year radius sphere. There are about 200 billion galaxies in it, and there are hundreds of billions of stars in each. We therefore have an advantage in that we are looking backward till the past is completely gone. In a way, this edge is meaningless, more akin to an edge in time. Undoubtedly, the actual cosmos is larger than what is visible to us. However, to what extent? Either the cosmos is genuinely endless, or it is incredibly large yet finite. It is possible to fill a finite world with ice cream if you so choose. There is just so much ice cream that you can have. However, that creates an odd issue. There ought to be a cosmic wall or edge where space terminates in such a cosmos. Additionally, there ought to be anything outside any edges. Since the universe is by definition all there is, how could there possibly be anything outside of it? Is there even any logic to the concept of anything existing outside of everything? With the exception of the obvious physics hack, even if there is no border between universes, there could still be a limited supply of ice cream. What if there is actually a finite universe? Picture an orange and a really small ant. Just like you can only view a little portion of the universe, the ant can only see a small portion of the skin. However, if the ant moves, it will eventually circle the entire orange and return to its original location. Thus, an orange's skin lacks a border yet is also not limitless. The cosmos may resemble a hypersphere, where 3D space is coiled around itself, rather than a sphere. However, it is not exactly like the skin of an orange, which, however, your brain is unable to visualize. However, the main idea is that, from the perspective of a human ant, everything of our 3D space is like the orange peel. There are no boundaries and nothing outside of the hypersphere. In the event that a spacecraft were traveling in a straight line, you would eventually return to Earth. What sense does any of this make? Given the difficulty of the physics at hand, we must simplify and embellish this a little. But all of it comes down to gravity in the end. Space-time is bent by mass, which is how gravity is produced. The strongest bending occurs where the mass is, yet it seems to go on forever, like a very light strain in space-time itself. This has the potential to distort the universe so that it folds back on itself to form the hypersphere. We understand if this is confusing for you. In the event that the universe is a hypersphere, how might we measure its size? The fact that we may observe objects on Earth vanish behind the horizon aids in our understanding of the planet's size. There was nothing that the scientists could see in their search for a universe horizon that would indicate the size of the cosmic sphere. This implies that in order for the cosmos to be a hypersphere, it must be so large that it appears to us that we are living on a flat surface. A hyperspherical universe must be at least 1,000 times larger than our observable portion in order for this to make sense. For all we know, it might be 1 trillion times larger, but it can't be any smaller. Some scientists proposed a more bizarre theory, claiming that the universe might resemble donut icing since they found everything to be far too simple. Another thing your brain cannot envision is a hyperdonut. This also implies that you would return to your starting point if you traveled in a straight line. But with interesting quirks. There is not the same amount of material in every direction in a hyperdonut cosmos. One spaceship may return to the starting point much sooner if the other spaceships sail in separate directions. This implies that light from distant galaxies might likewise cause interesting and perplexing effects, akin to a cosmic hall of mirrors phenomenon. Not only could we view distant objects in two locations, but we could also see them at two distinct points in time. Since one direction's light would have taken a lot longer to travel than the other, it is possible to witness the birth of a star directly before you and its eventual demise on the other side of the sky. What would be the size of such a hyperdonut universe? Actually, due to its peculiar geometry, this world may only be a few times larger than the observable universe, making it the smallest one that is conceivable. However, it might potentially be much, much larger. We're not sure. Alright. What a waste of limited universes. However, what if space is actually boundless and never ends? How would that feel? What happens if the cosmos is indeed infinite? In actuality, the majority of scientists' cosmological model describes an infinite cosmos. Although its main application is in the computation of events within our observable chunk, its literal interpretation implies an infinite universe. Infinite universes are tough to imagine since they seem to continue on forever and have no boundaries. You'll find an increasing amount of goods everywhere you turn, in all directions. There are several reasons why this slightly damages our brains. Firstly, if the cosmos is infinite, does that mean it is eternal and has existed from the beginning of time? Was there ever a moment when nothing existed somewhere and suddenly something did? We don't sure, but the Big Bang theory is strongly supported by the evidence, so it appears that the universe began at some earlier time. But hold on, the universe has been expanding ever since the Big Bang. How could something that is boundless and pervasive get more bigger? The mere fact that the distance between galaxies is increasing over time is known as cosmic expansion. It is possible for an endless space to expand. Welcome to the infinite contradictions. But things get much stranger in infinity. Traveling along a straight path with your spacecraft, you discover new galaxies, stars, planets, marvels, unusual things, and possibly even aliens and stranger than imagined life forms. But eventually, you may discover the most unique thing in the universe, who you are. A perfect replica of yourself currently viewing this video. How is that possible? All things in the universe are composed of a limited number of distinct particles. Furthermore, there are only a limited number of ways in which a finite number of distinct particles can be merged. Although our minds may interpret that number as infinite because it is so big, it is actually not. Repetition is likely to occur by pure chance if there are finite possibilities for building things but infinite space that is full with things in all directions indefinitely. That being said, something does not guarantee that it will occur just because it is feasible. Perhaps the universe never ends, but just the dull things keep happening again and over again. Perhaps you truly are the only one. However, if the laws of physics hold true everywhere, then stars and planets might have formed from gas in the far, far away, where early genetic information could have emerged from chemistry, which may have found their way into cells and creatures that underwent improbable forms of evolution, and eventually apes that pick up the ability to make videos for the internet. Since it occurred at least once, the likelihood is not zero. Even if there is essentially no probability that someone else is exactly like you and is watching this video right now, a big quantity nonetheless exists in an endless universe, virtually zero. Sadly, you will never cross paths. Since practically zero still denotes an extremely low possibility. Finding a second Earth that is exactly the same would require traveling a great distance, as the current Earth is very unlikely. Roughly 10 to the 10 carat to 29 times the extent of the observable universe, or 1 followed by 100 octillion zeros. So far that it seems like it would stay that way forever. However, in a genuinely infinite world, it is illogical to assume that any possible combination of particles could just now is the moment to give up. Although these situations seem plausible on paper, we've now entered the realm of science philosophy. None of these theories can yet be verified or tested. We shall never know if the cosmos is limitless. In actuality, the universe has an edge and is finite for humans. Furthermore, the edge, the border in time, is visible to us. The observable universe contains everything with which we can interact, and this is probably true forever. This finite cosmos is more than large enough to realize all of the dreams that we and our descendants can ever have, even if it seems small to you. Enough for all of us, without end. Even though the size of the cosmos is unknown, science, mathematics, and technology have provided conclusive answers to a number of intriguing issues.